All right, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let me get myself organized here. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is a meeting of the Preservation Board on March the 27th, 2023. I'll call a roll to establish who is here. Commissioner Robinson, are you here? Commissioner Hamilton, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Colleen, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, are you here?
Present.
Commissioner Hamaker, are you here?
Here.
Commissioner Robinson, are you here yet? Alderman Coder, are you here? Okay, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commissioners present. That constitutes a quorum, and we can begin. First, Meg, do you want to do housekeeping rules?
Yes, I just want to make sure that everyone who's in the meeting knows that the meeting is being recorded. If you wish to speak, please put your full name and the agenda item in the chat box, and please please go to chat with the window that says, I want to be sure I'm saying, sign up to speak here, because otherwise chats come to the person doing the speaking at this computer and things can get a little confusing. We just want to be sure that we are recognizing everyone who wants to speak on an agenda item. So again, if you want to speak on an agenda item, please go to that window and chat that window, and please use your full name, and please reference the agenda item that you wish to speak about. Information that's put in the chat, your comments in the chat don't count towards the public record. So if you want to say something on the record and have it discussed by the Preservation Board or heard by the Preservation Board, you need to do that audially. And we will be asking anyone who joins the meeting without a full name to please identify themselves, but that will happen later if it happens at all. So I believe that's it, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you very much. Commissioners, has anybody read the minutes from February the 27th? And if so, do you have a motion?
I have, Mr. Chairman. I move that we approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
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 Oppose? Abstain? The ayes have it. Minutes for February the 27th, 2023 are approved. Commissioners, take a moment, please, and look through the agenda and tell me if anybody needs to recuse themselves from discussion and voting on any of the items on this agenda. Okay, while you were looking at it, is this order of the agenda okay with everyone? Okay, then, this will be our agenda. And I think we can begin. Agenda item A. Who's speaking?
It will be Jan. Cameron, let me just share my screen. Give me just 1 second.
Okay,
And
I'm
before-
Jan Cameron.
I'm sorry. If I can interrupt for 1 second, Jan, we just had someone enter the waiting room with a phone number. We're going to ask that person to identify themselves. The phone number is 314-602-2048. You could please let us know your full name. Okay. The person who just joined with the phone number, please identify yourself. You can do so in the chat or verbally. Okay, I believe that person is fixed. All right, thank you. All right, Jan, please continue.
Could we go to the first slide, please? And now that I've unmuted myself, I'm Jan Cameron from the Cultural Resources Office. This is a proposal to construct a 2-story single-family residence at this corner property in the Fox Park Historic District. Next. It's at the corner of Accomack and California Avenue. There are a couple of things missing from the submission, but we are proposing to recommend anyway that the board grant preliminary approval according to with the usual conditions. This is, as I said, a two-story house. Could we go to the next one, Meg? And you see that the context of the block, and that's the corner there. I could have done a better job outlining it, I guess, but the corner property there towards the center of the screen is the site. And you can see that the architecture is very consistent in scale and materials, and the proposed building will comply with that. Next. Another shot of the lot. So it has a substantial exposure from three directions. Next. And this is the context that is directly to the east of the site. So as you can see, again, it's extremely consistent in rhythm and materials and scale. Next. This is looking to the south of the site. It's actually at the left-hand side at the intersection. And next. And now we're standing on Accomack, looking towards the site to the west. And next. Okay, so now this is the site plan. We do not have any plans for the proposed garage or carport at the alley. But you can see that it conforms to the setback of the block as it should. Next. And the submitted example, model example, is at 2812 Accomack. Now, it's taken its inspiration from it. It is not an exact copy, which the standards do not require. But the materials and most of the detailing is correct. It's a little bit simplified. Next. On the left is the west elevation, and this is the California street facade. You can see that substantial amount of fenestration according to the standards. The opposite side, the east elevation, will be up against the neighboring property. So they have returned the brick the same distance as the distance between the buildings as the standards require. A couple of concerns with, well, concern is too strong, but some things that we think need attention on the California elevation, and that is the fact that the stone does not appear to run down to grade at the foundation, and that we haven't any specific details yet for the proposed porch at the rear. Next. And this is the rear elevation where the porch is a little bit more prominent, and this will be visible from the street. Next. Oh, that's it. Okay. So the staff is recommending the preliminary review be granted, subject to the Cultural Resources Office reviewing and approving final plans, exterior details, material selections, and the plans for the proposed carport or garage. Questions?
Commissioners, do you have questions for Jan?
I do. Jan, are you going to keep an eye on this this stone base? It's so often these stone bases don't really look anything like the stone bases that the model examples are. And I don't know if you can go to the next elevation on this thing where it sort of floats above a lot of concrete in the windows. And I mean,
Yeah, that would not be something we could approve. But again, this is a very preliminary submission. So, and we do not have material samples now. They may be having those at the meeting tonight. I'm not certain.
But also just the design of this thing where the stone floats above the windows and we've got, yeah. I mean, it's just sort of awkward. Is that the kind of thing you would catch at staff level?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of Jan? Okay, let's have the applicants and we'll have questions for them. Ms. Ball? There you go.
Okay, you're here.
Do you guys have questions for us or do we have questions for you?
Let's start with our questions. Well,
Okay.
no, actually, I'm really curious. What questions have you got for us?
Oh, I don't know. I was just like, I don't know which way you're asking. So
Do you
Good
have any
question.
questions? Do you have any questions for us yet?
no, we kind of just wanted to hear, what you guys had to say, running the stonework down, not a huge deal. We can do that,
Commissioners, questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Ms. Ball, if I could expand on that, this is Mike from the board here. So it's just maybe when you work with your architect, just make sure that person looks at the stone in that model example and comes up with something close to that. And you can see how in the current drawing of your west elevation, the stone is riding over the windows. If you look at a home on your block there, obviously the stone goes all the way down to grade, but you got to hold it up a little bit. So the front facade is closer to kind of what we would be looking for. So, but it's a very attractive design.
great.
Thank
Further
you.
questions from commissioners of the applicant?
Just so you guys do know, our architect is on the call, John Elbers, and then our contractor is on the call as well, Tim Dolan. So if you have specifics that I might not be able to answer.
Okay, commissioners, questions for the applicant's architect, or for the applicant's contractor? Anybody?
Mr. Albers, you're following me on that, I assume, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Nice work.
Okay.
Michael, did you have a question?
Just a general question to the team. I mean, are you comfortable to work out details and abide by the staff decisions on this plan?
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Jan, has anybody signed up to testify?
Yeah, yes, we're keeping track of that over here in this office, and Jay Reeves is here from the Neighborhood Association.
Okay, commissioners, if that's okay, let's hear some testimony. Who's first?
I believe Jay Reeves is the only person signed up to speak on this.
Jay?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jay Reeves. I live in Allen Avenue, 27th block of Allen in Fox Park, and chair the development committee for Fox Park Historic District. We have, as neighbors and as a committee, we want the homeowner to build a house, but based on the drawings we've seen so far, we did not support the design because we think there's a variety of areas where it doesn't conform with the model example or the district standards. I will provide just a moment of context that this has been a little bit of a unusual review for us, because typically, we had some communication challenges between our committee and CRO for this one. So Meg and I talked about that today. We're working to refine that for future projects. But while we shared much of what we'll share with you now with the homeowner and their architect and builder, this is the first time CRO has heard our feedback on the project. We did have a meeting with the owner and design team, but at that time they still hadn't heard from CRO. And in fact, the homeowner today told me that it was just today that they got any comments from CRO. So we'd assumed a lot of the issues we discussed with the client were going to be addressed with CRO, but since they weren't, we'll share that. So we hope the feedback that we can give the applicant preservation board will ask the design team to return to the table to bring the project back within just what we think are the district standards for another review. Here's a summary of what we think are the non-compliant issues. Number one, as CRO notes in the reports, proposals missing streetscape drawing of the block for both public facades to evaluate design in comparison to the adjacent buildings or the common masses within the block, which we think are important for you guys to see. The mass, number two, the mass and proportion of the Accomack elevation, the California elevation, and the north elevations are not comparable to the mass of the adjacent buildings or the common overall building mass within the block of the model example. And so on that topic, we have a few comments. One is there appear to be no two-story houses on that block. They're as wide as this, 33 feet wide or wider, with a hipped roof and only one dormer on a public facade. The model example is of a similar scale as the proposed, but has two front-facing dormers. The roof lines are all less intricate, particularly as we move to the California side. It's really just a big blank hipped roof. Dormers are more sparse or non-existent. the first floor projection beyond the plane of the second floor walls on that north, on the California elevation where the north facade stretches under that first floor roof addition is not seen elsewhere. The first floor roof addition on a public facade is not something that we're used to seeing either in the neighboring buildings or in the model example. And then the screen porch, which is dominant to California, is on the public facade. And that's not seen in the model example or comparable to any adjacent buildings within the block. Finally, on that subject, the model example has dormers detailed bays projecting beyond the typical wall plane on the sides facing on the side facades, which in the model example are really just facing another building. But that does provide more richness and massing and proportions than we see on this proposal. But on this proposal, that's facing California. So that California and north elevations are pretty dominant, but there's really no detail there. Item 3 was the ratio solid to void. Jan had mentioned a report, but it's not been met on the California facade per the district standards. CRO states it partly complies with a 23% ratio, but that's less than the 25% minimum. But our position is actually that it's 14% because that 23% she used includes the ratio of screen porch openings as part of an opening. But as we're seeing that as a clad wall of screen, we see that as a side, as a solid, and doesn't seem like that should be counting towards window openings. So if our math says it's 14%, which is well below what the 23% or 25% minimum is. Similarly, the ratio of solid to void is not met on the north, which is a semi-public facade. The district standards don't see any difference between semi-public and public facades. Our calculation, again, without including screen panels, is 4.5% ratio. 25 to 33 is what's required. Number 5, the vinyl siding is not allowed on public or semi-public facades based on the model example. The language in the district standards does allow it if it's on the model example, but this model example is all stone and brick. Number 6 for us, screen porches on a public facade are not allowed for the model example, and they're definitely not listed anywhere as permitted in the district standards for public facades. Number 7, in-wall fireplace vents on the public facade, which is happening, they're stacked on that California elevation, is not in line with the model example, which has chimneys. The number 8, the proposed brick does not comply with the district standards, but Jan noted that in her CRO comments. Number 9, all windows on the north facade do not comply with the district standards for proportion of height and width. My understanding is that's supposed to be read by the mass opening, the rough openings, not the individual windows when they're ganged like this. Number 10 was what Mike was commenting on. The proposed stone walls and porch don't comply with the model example with that, with the stone concrete mix. Number 11, the high fences seen on the proposed site plan with 6-foot tall fence is not allowed in the front of the building, in front of the building line of public facades, which is part of the district standards. And finally, number 12, in our opinion, it's just a big departure in character and details from the model example. So the as Jan said, we're not asking for it to be admitted, to be mimicked. Admittedly, there's some room for interpretation there, but with the 3 facades that are to be reviewed, we don't think there's a lot of connection between the model example and the proposed house, other than they're both 2-story structures with hip roofs. But big blank hip roofs facing the street are not part of the model examples at all. So this is a kind of an odd one. We're in pretty good step with CRO's reviews, but we had been hoping that the CRO review is going to have more impact on improving the design to meet the standards or closer to the model example before coming back to us. But we're hoping with the feedback that we're providing mixed with the other comments that the applicant and the preservation board will ask the design team to return to try to address some of those 12 issues that we've identified as non-compliant parts of the project.
Thank you. Jen, before I take a motion, do you want to add anything?
Well, I thought that the majority of those issues were minor enough to be handled at the staff level, but if that's a big concern of the neighborhood, then we could certainly work with them and the applicants to come to some kind of appropriate ending, I guess.
Cool. Thank you. Let's see. Commissioner Colleen, have you got a motion?
Yes, sir. I move that we defer action on this. for a minimum of one meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Commissioners, there's a motion on the floor to defer consideration of this for a minimum of one meeting. I'm going to call a roll and see what you think about that. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no? Can't hear you, Tony. Thumbs up or thumbs down? Thumbs up is yes. Okay. Let's see. Where did my lawyer go? Nancy, is a thumbs up okay? He's having audio difficulties. No, I can't hear you either.
You could, why don't we try to come back to him? But yes, I think since you're just deferring, that's probably fine.
Okay. Commissioner Hamilton, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, yes or no on your motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammaker, yes or no?
Yes.
The chair abstains on this vote. Counts 6 yeses, 1 abstention, no nos. The item is deferred for at least one meeting. Okay, let's do agenda item B.
Sorry, can I ask just like one question before we move on?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are our next steps? I just want to make sure that we have everything that we need and to you guys so that, you know, we can get everything fixed and not get deferred again. We are
I think you can expect a telephone call either today or tomorrow from the Cultural Resources staff.
okay.
And I would personally not be inclined to defer this another time. So I hope that this can get worked out between the two meetings.
Can I say something?
No. Let's do agenda item B. 1332 Shenandoah.
Okay, this is another proposed single-family new construction. This time in the Soulard Historic District. And it's this very interesting little lot, which is at the corner of, well, actually really at the end of Shenandoah Avenue. Could we go to the next one, please? It's right up against the highway. And there used to be 18th Street there, but it's no longer there. It's all the right of way of the highway. Next. And this is the block. You can see that I've done a better job of indicating the site on this one, but it's a very unusual block. There's not a lot of consistency. The low northern side is more consistent than the southern side, but if we get to look at the photos of the block, you'll see that it's, as I said, very unusual. Next. This is the site plan. And it is, again, the brick returns a substantial distance according to the standards on the side that faces the adjacent property. Next. There will be very little possibility of anyone seeing the the western facade, which is up against the right of way of the highway. So the brick ends at that corner, and we feel that that's a reasonable compromise. You can see that it's going to, well, let's get to the next one, please. Again, this is what the property looks like now, and that's the highway right of way. Next. This is the proposal. Now, we do not have a model example for this building, although we can recognize that it has historic precedent. It needs some adjustment in the proportions of the door and transom, but otherwise it appears to follow the general concept of a historic model example. It is shorter and smaller in scale than the rest of the properties on the block, as you'll see in a moment. Next. The upper shot is the facade that will face the highway and that no one will ever see. The lower elevation is what's going to be directly adjacent to the two-story house next door. Next. Okay, so now we're actually standing at the corner of South 13th Street, looking towards the side on the left. And there's this new construction that was what they used to call the Charleston buildings that were completed in the late 90s. Adjacent to them is the beautiful little Second Empire house on the right. Both of these are at a much higher grade than the rest of the properties on the block, and they're also set considerably back out of the building line. Next. And this is the property that's directly adjacent to the site that we're looking at. Next. Excuse me. Now we're on the opposite sides of the street, so we're heading down Shenandoah. There's a vacant lot at the corner, and there is, as I said, more consistency here with most of the buildings being two-story mansarded buildings. Next. And the only exception to that is the one at the corner of South 13th Street, which is in fact a full 3 stories. And next. Uh-oh, are we at? Oh. Well, sorry about that. I thought I had a couple of other slides.
Was that the nighttime view?
Yes. During the power outage.
Yep.
So the staff again is recommending that we go ahead and proceed with a preliminary approval subject to the staff working out the little problems that are still extant in the design that was submitted to us, and exterior materials and other requirements. Questions?
Questions for Jan? Okay, let's find the applicant.
Actually, Chairman, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess my question here is typically when we look at this, where we are normally what 15% within the cornice of the buildings adjacent to them. And this doesn't seem to comply with that.
Well, it doesn't, but I think that the extraordinary character of this site and its location is not going to have much of an impact on the block by having a 1-story here. I mean, there's a whole mix of building types and setbacks on that side of the block. And
yeah, and I saw that.
honestly,
But
it's almost like being at a dead end to go up the street. So we thought that with a little bit more flexibility was appropriate.
Jan, please put your cursor where it's going to go.
I don't have a cursor.
Who has
I've got the cursor
Okay.
right here.
Okay.
And it will align with the buildings adjacent to it. So
What's the width of it?
I'm not exactly sure
Let's see. Sorry.
because I cut all the dimensions off. It's about 16 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions of Jan? Okay, now let's hear from, I'm sorry, Tony, are you finished?
yes.
Okay, good point, by the way. Let's hear from the applicant.
Yes, can you hear us?
Yes. Can't see you, but I can hear you.
Okay, don't know why that is. Any questions you have for us?
Let's see. Commissioners, questions? Commissioner Robinson?
Why not a 2-story building?
the basement portion of it is full and to be finished. And essentially it will be a 2-story building in ours, just one below grade. And we worked with a number of other designs and thought this fit our needs the best. Our architect has worked with us also and thought we were in compliance. As she said, everything up and down the block is as different as night and day. So when we get to ours, we're not all that different. The lot is so small. It's only 26 foot wide. The building is 16 foot wide. That'll leave, we would comply with the 4 foot setback on the east side. It only leaves about, I believe it's 6 feet on the west side. Couldn't do anything much wider, much larger, and still be in compliance with the setbacks. So pretty much what we wanted, I guess, is my answer.
So, yeah, I'm not sure my question was exactly answered. I understand you have living space in the basement, but one of the historic requirements involve cornice eave lines, and this substantially doesn't comply. You know, my other concern is you've got a 26 foot wide lot and a 16 foot wide building, which means we've got in my mind substantial space to work with.
Now when you factor in the setbacks on both sides would be 4 foot. It's my understanding.
Actually, the setback would be 3 feet. And that would allow you a 20 foot wide building.
In my preliminary inquiries with zoning, I was told 4 feet.
It is.
That's what I was going by.
It is 4 feet under normal circumstances, but in a narrow lot, it's 3 feet. That is the main building.
Yeah.
And this would be, in fact, the main building. Yeah, okay.
Further questions? Commissioner Allen?
Just a question about the front door, since this came up with a letter sent to us in our packet too. It looks like the design has changed to be a 4-panel rather than a single panel with a single light. But if we could clarify, are those upper panels glazed or solid? What's going on here?
Is your question to me or to Cultural Resources?
To you.
It's
Our staff can answer it, but since you're the applicant and this is what you're proposing, maybe you can answer.
I wish our architect was on with us, but I don't believe he was talking about them being glazed at all. My concern was I wanted a door to have a transom above it so it fit in. And that's also what drove the entire need for 10-foot ceilings in the front part of the building. But the transom itself would be glazed to let light in, of course. I thought the requirements was for a 6-panel door, and I don't know why he chose it as a 4, but whatever we can do to comply on the design of the door, that's no problem for us at all.
Yeah, I think we need to work on the door, and I have talked to your architect about that. It needs to have a transom sash in it, and the door needs to be taller. But that's the kind of thing that we would work out prior to approving the application for permit.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a problem at all.
Very good then.
Further questions, commissioners, for the applicants?
So I guess it's to my understanding that this is a 1-story, not because it can't be done, but because the applicant wants it like that. Am I correct?
Yes, essentially.
Okay, thank you.
We're getting older and we really don't want to deal with all the stairs. This is kind of like our retirement home, so.
No, yeah. No, I completely understand. I just worry that there's exceptions in certain circumstances and not exceptions in other circumstances, and you should probably stick to the rules, but yeah, that's my opinion.
Further questions of the applicant?
Just to clarify, we heard from the neighborhood association or the alderman on this?
Yes, you should have received a letter in your packet from the SRG, Soulard Restoration Group. And they made some of the same points that I made that needs to be refined in the final product.
Is that Walker Hamilton, Jim?
Yes,
Okay, and what about the alderman down there?
The alderman we have not heard from.
Thank you.
Jen, has anybody signed up to speak?
No one has signed up to speak on this one.
Okay. Commissioners, any further questions for either staff or for the applicant? Okay. Commissioner Robinson, would you like to make this motion?
Sure. I move that the preservation board hold on just a second.
You've gotten the easy part. Now we need a verb.
I move that the preservation board deny preliminary approval as the design does not currently meet the historic district standards.
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Robinson, anything to add to your comments from the questions?
Well, so yeah, I mean, while I see that designs on the block are different, setbacks are as well, but looking even on that side of the block, every one of the structures is 2-story, 2.5-story. So I think this sets a really bad precedent. Everything on the other side of the block are again, while the building line is consistent on the other side of the block, this side it's not consistent, and I get that, but the height, yeah, that's a problem. And then I also don't think that given the width of the lot that, you know, they're really doing a disservice to what could be done on the lot. And I understand about getting old, you know, and that makes sense, but the reality is you can design a house where the master is on the first floor to address that and still create a second floor, which I think should have been done.
Further comments?
Yeah, I have some comments on this one. I think, you know, I thought the staff report said that there is like a 1.5 story on that block face. So there is, I think it ranges from 1.5 stories to 2.5 stories. But I think that we should be granting them, you know, any variances necessary for this preliminary approval for the mass and scale, because I mean, you do have a unique situation here where you have a lot at the very end next to the interstate. So I mean, it's not the most desirable lot I can imagine. And, you know, getting someone to take on this empty lot in that location, I can see why you're not going to build the largest house there. So, I mean, I think I applaud them for tackling this site.
Further comments,
Can I
commissioners?
say something? So I think this like makes me frustrated, and I don't mean to like put this project as an example, but I feel like in some situations, we are so stringent to the T on something so small. And there's something like a project like this that is 1 story where it's really clear that it needs to be 2 stories based on the streetscape. And that this is not an issue because, and the applicant said, it's just because that's how we want it. And everyone's like, well, let's grant them the variance because that's how they want it. I think that's so contradictory. And I feel like I would love for them to, I understand this is not a desirable lot and it's close to the highway, and I would love to see something done, but I guess I don't understand the fact that we just want it this way is the reason we're going to grant it if it's clearly against the rules. And they can, like Anthony said, build a primary bedroom on the main floor. So I guess I don't understand. It's like, it's not like it couldn't be done. So why are we giving variance?
I would note, Commissioner, that the motion on the floor is to withhold approval. Not.
No, I was referring to the last speaker.
Yeah, and I guess I'd say the whole legal basis for variances if they're not self-created and if it's unique to the site. And so my point here is this is a site that is, probably, is not very desirable, that you're not going to build a larger house on it. So a variance that's based on the site characteristics, that is the legal basis of a variance.
Yeah, no, I get it, but like buildings on Kings Highway, we leave them vacant and ugly because it's not meeting certain standards. And so I get what you're saying, but I just feel like if a 2-story can be done, why it's not like it can't be done on this specific lot because it's too small. We're saying we're not doing it because the applicants just don't want it. To me, that's not reason enough. That's just my opinion.
I mean, that variance that you just described, Commissioner Richardson, doesn't apply here because the applicant just said it's because they want it, not because of some other reason. I mean, I could look at this and say, okay, as a developer myself, I wouldn't even present this as a single story. I would not come to the board with this project personally as a developer, as a designer. I would not bring this before the board as designed. I could even agree with, okay, so it's not 20 feet wide, it's 16 feet wide. But the fact that we have predominantly 2.5-story buildings on this block with what may be a 1.5-story in the center, it doesn't comply. And again, if we are being equitable, then there is no reason for this to be granted a variance.
Commissioners, further comments?
Question for Tony. Yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And I concur on a lot of this. We just moved to defer the previous case. Would you be open to that and giving the applicant some time to maybe try to wade through this? Assuming you can be open to a redesign.
Commissioner, let me try to answer that one. The reason we deferred the prior question was because there was some confusion between the neighborhood group and the staff on consultation, and they're gonna work that out. Mm-hmm. In this case, this is just a preliminary review. Right. If we withhold preliminary approval this time, they can come back next month.
Well, I know that.
Okay.
All right.
And there was no confusion with the neighborhood on this one. They supported this one.
Right.
Further comments, commissioners? Okay, commissioners, the motion on the floor is to withhold preliminary approval. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
No.
Commissioner Richardson, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
No.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
I'll pass for now.
Commissioner Hamaker, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
No.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no on that motion?
Yes.
That is 3 yeses, 3 nos. The chair votes yes, breaking the tie. The motion carries. Okay. How do you want to handle C and D, Meg?
Since they are basically identical projects on adjacent vacant lots, Mr. Bettis will present them as one project, and I will turn the computer over to him.
Hello, everyone. How are you this evening?
Hey, Bob.
Okay.
Are you looking more and more like Keanu Reeves, like every meeting?
Well, you know, we're going for a look, and I cannot pull it off at all, but I'm
No,
gonna keep on trying.
I think it's very successful. Tiffany, what do you think?
Don't make her say
Yeah.
anything.
I'm sitting over here laughing to myself.
Listen, I'm pushing 50. If I can still do this, I'm doing it. All right. So let's, that's my answer.
You are not pushing 50, sir.
I sadly am, unfortunately.
You're aging well. Whatever makes you feel younger. You look good.
Can we see the PowerPoint? Okay. Let me get caught up real quick here on the PowerPoint. Okay, so some background. I think a few of you were not here last month. These 2 items were deferred so that the applicant had time to meet with the neighborhood to discuss the projects. And I'll just be brief since this was discussed prior. And I did enter in all my items last month. Richard, am I okay since this was deferred?
Yes, you are. This is a
Thank you, sir.
deferment.
Okay. All right. So we have proposal is to construct 2 new houses at the empty lots you see before you. Sorry. And this is the proposed location. We're in Benton Park, just south of Utah. Here's just some street level context. Across the street, you have several new constructions over the past decade or so. And the left-hand side is the context on the block itself. And this is kind of looking south on the same street. On the right, we have some 1-story commercial along with 2-story. The block itself is a mix of 2.5-story, 2-story, 1-story. And this is the streetscape for the proposal. This is the model example for the property. It's at 3313 Illinois. So this is where I want to stop and give some more background. You may have read this in your staff reports, but again, I just want to reiterate. The board saw this exact same design in 2019 and approved it as submitted. Staff felt that since this came in the exact same way, at that time, we also did recommend approval. So we felt that given that the site conditions are pretty much identical to the Illinois side for the most part, I'll get to that in a second, we would also still recommend approval. We felt that it generally met the appearance of the model example. At the last meeting, the neighborhood did bring up a good point, which I did miss, and I wanted to bring that up really quick. On the south elevation of the 3317 building, you will see some of the second floor. So we're going to have them run the brick much further back than originally proposed, and that revised elevation is in your packet. So this is the rear elevation for both properties. This is the south elevation and the north elevation for 315, and it's also the north elevation for the 3317 building. This is now the revised elevation for lamp. I directed the applicant and the architect to reference kind of the brick massing of the property here on the right, kind of having it run back, making kind of a plane break, so you have kind of a logical break where brick would be historically, And then on that rear portion, we can trim it out to make it look more like a frame addition. So we felt that was a little bit more appropriate. And it gives a better line of sight over that 1-story building. So that was a change from last month, and the applicant was totally fine with doing that. Okay, so given that, last time staff did recommend approval, subject to the usual language where we will review final details, drawings, materials, and colors. You did get a packet from us with letters from the Benton Park Neighborhood Group, and Mr. Mulligan is here as well to speak. Any questions for me?
Bob, I see the model example has a window at the basement, nothing in the drawing for that.
Right. So when this was approved initially in 2019, it did not have a window there. That was also brought up by the neighborhood group. And since the front facade really has no difference in terms of the sites from the previous one to this proposal, we felt we should recommend it as submitted. The neighborhood group would like to see a window in there. You know, if there were to be a taller foundation for these, perhaps you know, we could see that being a different proposal, but this is what we saw last time exactly. So we felt we had the need to recommend approval as submitted like this.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Further questions for Bob? Okay, is the applicant present?
Yes, Mr. Askin should be here.
Yes, I'm present. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
yes, we can. We might have some questions for you.
Sure.
Who wants to ask him about the basement window?
Oh, sure. I'll ask Mr. Askins, would you be up for putting a window in the basement in your front facade?
We prefer not to. We prefer not to, based on the previous drawings were approved. The previous house we did not require it. We would prefer not to. We made the adjustment and the financial costs without hesitation with the addition of brick that Bob asked us to do. So we felt like we were being definitely trying to work with him on that, and we've done that. So we hope that a basement window is not something that, considering it's been approved before, would not hold us up.
Thank you.
Further questions of the applicant? Okay, Bob, who did you say was here to speak?
We have Tim Mulligan from the Benton Park Neighborhood Association.
Hello, Tim. Speak.
Hi, thanks for accommodating time to review this for the neighborhood. And unfortunately, we weren't able to catch up with Mr. Atkins during the month, but we did a review, and the reference building that was built at 3327 Illinois has some I would refer to them as just unpleasant discrepancies from the model, and they're called out in my letter. The mismatched window and door opening on the front elevation is just very disconcerting when we're talking about the success of that model example being replicated. The 3313 has arched openings. The as-built example has a lower window on the front, and then it has a flat linteled brick over the door. So why something like that ever got built is I guess what is concerning to us, because we don't find the 3327 at all to be worthy of being replicated. And if we're using the same drawings from 3327, that's a real concern, because it seems like Mr. Askins took great liberties in altering that design. And we feel very strongly about incorporating a window on the front. And then, I guess, based on the elevation, proportions, how low the foundation is set into the site will determine, obviously the height of the, first floor. And so, certainly the first floor of 3327, would have, plenty of space, to have a basement window. And then there's other examples of, the brick windowsill, seems to be proportionally very mismatched. Generally those are 2 bricks high. The one on 3327 is a little more than 1 brick high. So there's some proportion challenges there. And then the polychrome, brick is not really a historic, detail, that's found throughout the neighborhood. So we request just, utilizing, the same brick, for the detailing. I think those are the highlights.
Thank you.
Mr. Callaway, if I may address
Wait, who's speaking?
Orlando Askins.
I have not called on you yet, sir.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I guess I'm confused procedurally. If this was approved a few years ago with these designs, what occurred to prevent the actual building from complying with those designs? Like what went wrong at that point?
Bob, do you remember?
I'm unaware. I was not here at that time. I mean, are you asking why the building was constructed to not match what was approved at the board? I'm sorry, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering like, okay, we could approve the drawings again, but then what would prevent this same thing from occurring where the end result was not what the drawing said?
Sure. It's not for us to speak for other departments and other people in the field who have to do these inspections. And unfortunately, we'll have to ask for some more diligence at the site level. That's all we can really do. Staff does not have, we don't go out there and watch every step of the build. So we do rely on other departments to make sure that they've followed those plans. That's all I can really say on that, and I don't want to speak for other departments.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
If I could add to that, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
We've had some, just quite recently in Benton Park, we had a building that was going up that was supposed to look a certain way. And it took some reporting by the citizenry here to Cultural Resources Office just to let them know, hey, the details aren't working out. So it's not just the city watching this. If you have alert neighbors, they could catch these mistakes. So
I will note that we, just for record, we did not receive any complaints regarding the construction of that building went up. So we did not receive that kind of level of attention from, I guess, the neighbors in that property.
So I guess I'm confused because it says, from what I'm reading, it says everything complies. So I guess I'm confused.
I think the question is, I think the drawing does comply, right? It's just that the last time someone used this drawing to build a building, the actual building didn't end up looking like the drawing.
But I think that I don't think that's on us. I
don't think so either.
Yeah, I think if what they're saying, yeah, I think if what they're saying complies. If just like last situation, it didn't comply, but people were willing to vote for it to comply. This is clearly stating complies. So to me, it's open and shut. I don't see what the issue is.
Yeah, I think the drawings comply, and if there are questions during the building process, then the neighborhood association should be looking at that, given the manpower of Cultural Resources, to make sure that it is built per the drawings versus those details that Mr. Mulligan mentioned that ultimately didn't comply when as built, I should say.
Okay,
The drawings.
let's get a motion on the floor, and then we'll continue this discussion. Commissioner
Mr. Callaway, I would like to speak and respond.
And you have spoken, sir.
I did not get an opportunity to speak and respond.
That's correct.
To Mr. Mulligan.
Commissioner Hamilton, have you got a motion?
I did not get an opportunity to. Mr.
My
Martin.
motion is that the Preservation Board approve the new application for construction of single-family houses with a condition, final details and drawings, exterior materials and colors for the house be reviewed and approved by Cultural Resources.
Is there a second?
I'll second it if you add the window to the front facade in the basement.
No, that wasn't a part of my motion.
Is there a
It's
second?
part of the model example, which if you want to follow the rules of Benton Park, that window's supposed to be there.
Let's save the discussion. Commissioner Robinson, did you just second that?
I did.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. It's been made and
I
seconded.
approve about the window, sir.
Commissioner Hamilton?
I made my motion. I feel like if everything that Bob Bettis is saying, all this stuff complies, then I don't see a reason why we would decline this. I just, unless there's a valid reason to do so. I don't, if someone could tell me.
Does that motion direct the applicant to work details out with staff?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I know that basement window, it seems like the applicant, I think he just said he would comply. And then the sill thickness, I do think is a real issue. I mean, I haven't in any model example buildings in Benton Park with sills that thin. But it seems like those would be covered by this motion, right?
I don't think the window's covered by the motion, because that's, to me, I think it's
that's
more
not on the drawing.
structural. Yeah,
But I don't understand. You want us to follow the rules, and that's a rule of the neighborhood. You have to follow a model example.
But
So
sir,
you're contradicting your own logic.
But
I'm
if
not
I,
okay. You know what?
if
In
I,
2019, I guess I have a question. Can I ask a question or is this not the time?
It's perfectly the time.
Okay, in 2019, when this drawing came before, or came to Cultural Resources without the basement window, was there a rationale for why it was approved without the basement window before?
Looking back at the record, I didn't see any discussion regarding the window.
Okay,
It was
because
pretty
based on what Mr. Colleen is saying, it wouldn't have complied back then without the basement window, correct? Like the regulation was in place at that time as well?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners, further discussion?
Okay, so that being said, I think, I truly think this is a non-issue. Commissioner Colleen's bringing up the window at this point, but Commissioner Colleen was also on the board when this was approved previously. And so now it is an issue. My concern here is, again, Commissioner Colleen saying that we should, because it was Benton Park's requirement at some point, and I believe most of us were on the board in 2019 when this was approved. Why are we making changes today? And I'm not saying that there isn't perhaps some logical reasons behind why we would make a change. Elevations change, the height in which it comes out of the ground changes. I can see issues like that where we do consider this, but designed exactly as it was previously, why are we now requiring something different? Give me a logical explanation behind that.
I can't give you a logical explanation, but I can remember some history. It is my strong bet that in 2019 preliminary approvals were done on voice vote. And that we have no way of knowing who voted.
We may have just missed it. I mean, but we're catching the detail now. 2 wrongs don't make a right. It's in the guidelines.
Well, can I jump in? And I just want to correct.
And so then my next thing,
Commissioner Robinson,
which is something that I always speak on, is model examples and doing direct copies of buildings. That has always been an issue for me. Long before I talked about being equitable, that's a problem. direct copies are a problem. And I think that a model example is a good start, but we should not be copying exactly what some other architect came up with.
That's what the rules state.
I understand what the rules state, but they are incorrect. And that was my argument with Lafayette Square. And there were changes that were made because of that. And Benton Park is wrong as well. And they copied Lafayette Square's older requirements. I understand that, and it's still wrong.
Commissioner Allen?
Oh, yeah. Hi. There's my concerns are, I think, different than my colleagues. But I mean, to Commissioner Robinson's point, but there are problems with this sort of replication as our inherited model in these laws. And I share that critique, but I know we're also bound by our oath to make sense within those laws. So there's a political battle perhaps to be fought outside of the Preservation Board to push for those reforms. But the earlier point was made, this is the exact same design, but I would like to point out it is not, that the entrances, which I think the one that was built on Illinois Avenue really, Timothy Mulligan's letter calls it out, does not meet the model standard. These are better because the window heights and the door heights align. So it seems like the architect here has taken in some of the feedback, made some of the observations. I still want thicker sills. I'm not as worried about the lower level window. I am worried about what the facing on those lower levels would look like. That's a problem throughout the city, I think, with this concrete sometimes calling out stone that never gets put on these buildings. But I think much, if built this way, would be more in line with what people in Benton Park are saying they want than what got built on Illinois Avenue. But I still want thicker sills, and I hope that could be worked out.
Commissioner Richardson?
Yeah, I just want to say to Commissioner Robinson, again, we're not the lawmakers, so our job is to apply the ordinance as written. So if Benton Park or Lafayette Square, whatever neighborhood, whatever the standards are, that's what we apply. But having said that, then, I thought we adopted new construction standards that you can have some deviations. And I would say, to Commissioner Hamilton, it's not open and shut, or it's not, because there's partial complies here. They don't exactly comply to the model example. It's the proportions different. And, again, other issues have been pointed out here. Having said that, though, again, I thought we had new construction standards that do allow for some minor variations. And I think the details will get worked out with staff, final details, drawings, and exterior materials. And this application should not be held to 3327 Illinois. It needs to stand on its own. So I'm supportive of the motion and would grant those minor variances that are needed to make it in accordance with the Benton Park standards.
I don't think Benton Park ever accepted that deviation standard, though. Tim, did you guys accept that over there, or did you reject it?
We submitted a letter refuting it.
So it doesn't apply in Benton Park.
No,
We adopted it as a board, so it does apply. I don't think they just get to refute.
Okay, well, I appreciate David Richardson's comments. That is all I have to say.
So because what we're doing now is considering a new application, and because the motion on the floor would leave cultural resources with a great deal of latitude to work out details, I think it's important for us to hear from Bob as to what Bob is hearing, what direction we're giving him. So Bob, what have you heard from this discussion?
Well, it sounds like you would like to see the sills augmented to reflect the example a little better, and also the basement window should be included into the design. That's what I'm hearing as the two main points of contention from the board.
Commissioners, is Bob hearing correctly?
I don't know if the window's contention. I think one person out of everyone thought the
I'm
window.
saying what I'm hearing, so I understand what you're saying. I got you.
So I think the window, as a realtor standpoint, he's making all these adjustments, and something like that is a major addition to a budget. And we have a model example, and that it says it complies with. So I don't know what the circumstances was behind that. I know most of us were on the board in 2019 in-person meetings. So again, this goes back to making decisions here and there. If we have something that it complies to, I don't understand why we would make this additional requirement. You know, and if the model was not there, I would understand why we would require it, but we have a model. So I say we deal with what's in front of us.
Okay, just reminding everyone that the motion on the floor is to approve this preliminary design.
And Mr. Calloway, I think it's only fair.
I'm sorry, who is speaking?
This is Orlando Askins. You allowed Mr. Tim Mulligan to speak in response to some things. I think it's only fair that I get an opportunity.
Mr. Askins?
About him. Yes, sir.
He was asked a direct question by a commissioner,
But I didn't get an opportunity to respond to his statement, sir.
and I'm not offering you one either.
Well, what, okay. Well, I want to go on the record and let you, and state that I object to that. Because he made some statements that we did not get an opportunity to respond to. We tried to. We
I would
attempted
only
to
note
reach out
so
to
that
him on. If
I
I
would
can
note
say
that the
this.
motion on the floor is to approve your
I
design.
understand that, sir, but I just want to make certain the record understands that we reached out to him on multiple occasions. He never got back to us. We missed a meeting that was Zoomed. We had called and then apologized that we missed that meeting because we had the dates incorrect. And then I emailed him on, I believe, 2 occasions, in which I also let Bob know to let me know if there's something else that we can consider outside of what the changes we made with the brick on the side of the building, which is a huge expense for us, but we elected to do that. Bob has that in the new drawings, and he never responded back to us on 2 occasions. So I just want the record to reflect that we have made efforts to, even though everything is compliant, and they accepted cultural resources, we still made efforts to try and communicate with the neighborhood association. So we're not just out here being pirates and ignoring what they're saying to us. We made every effort to try and speak with them further.
Now, see, Mr. Askin, I really did not need to know that, but since you've raised the question, is it your testimony that you're going to build to the plans that are submitted here that we approve?
That is my testimony.
Is it your testimony that you will work with cultural resources staff to make the changes to your plan that they suggest?
We've made those changes already, which had everything to do with the south side building.
Okay, having heard our discussion, they may have other changes. Will you comply with those?
I can't say that we will. We do not know what those changes are going to be. So you're asking me to agree to something. I have no idea what it's going to be. We are agreeing to what has already been approved, which has been approved in 2019. We're agreeing to which also was amended by Bob at his suggestion, and we've submitted that. So we've taken on that as well. So as of now, as of what he submitted today, we would like those plans to be approved based on what the adjustments we made from 2019.
Well, that is not the motion that's on the floor.
Well, what is the motion, sir? Maybe I misunderstood it.
Bob, you want to repeat the motion?
Well, it was the motion to approve and work with staff on final details and drawings. And then there was a question about other items, but I don't think that's part of the actual motion itself. So it's the usual work with staff on details, colors, items like that, materials.
Did you hear that, Mr. Askins?
I did, and I said yes to that. In fact, the brick that was chosen that Mr. Mulligan is objecting to as well, the brick was approved by Cultural Resources based on their request, not our choice.
Cool.
This is the choice that they recommended, and we capitulated.
Okay, I think we're on the same page.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Mulligan, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, just that we really find, the way the previous model example turned out, just to be a disgrace, but other than that, no.
Mr. Mulligan.
So it sounds to me like right now, what we're dealing with is the window seal thickness and then the house as built, the details not quite lining up with what we approved. And again, I think that the neighborhood association, if those are true concerns, should be more diligent as these buildings are going up.
Okay, and as Commissioner Bridgerton pointed out, we're considering what's before us, not what happened before us. Okay, any further discussion, commissioners?
I'll just add that on this particular block, even if they, the worst case scenario, these would still be probably the nicest infill housing the other side of the street. I think if you're talking about disgraces, there's some really bad examples on the other face of that block.
Further discussion from commissioners? Okay, I think we've heard from commissioners. We've allowed the applicant to ventilate. We've heard from the neighborhood association. There's a motion on the floor. It is to approve with conditions this design. Commissioner Robinson, on this motion, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Richardson, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamaker, yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this vote. Counts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses, 1 no, 1 abstention, and the motion carries. Commissioners, we're going to take a 5-minute break and reset.
Okay, I'll see you next month. I got to run to work.
Thanks, Tiffany. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, let's start gathering again, please. I will start this meeting as soon as this cat settles down a bit.
Is that cat a voting member, Richard, or is it?
This cat is just an advisor.
Thanks.
However, I cannot get to my keyboard until she moves a little.
Does that cat get to lay things on the table and prove your earlier point?
Ooh, that's an excellent point. If I lay it on the table, she'll knock it off repeatedly.
Oh, double entendre.
Stop it.
Okay, commissioners, if you're back, turn your cameras on or tell me that you're back. Commissioner Robinson, are you back?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton, whoops, Commissioner Hamilton is gone. Commissioner Colleen, you back?
Present.
Commissioner Richardson, are you here?
Should I get it?
Commissioner Allen, are you here?
Yes.
Commissioner Hammaker, are you here?
Yep.
Okay, we still have a quorum. Commissioners, we are now going to move into appeals of director's denials. The procedure we're going to follow is a little different than we did during preliminary and new applications. We will ask that staff and those who testify identify themselves, give us a zip code, and affirm or swear that their testimony is going to be the truth. Because we're building a record, both staff and appellant should introduce every bit of ordinance, fact, evidence that they want to go into the record, because that is what we will base our decision on. Now, let's begin with agenda item E, please.
Okay, before we begin, we let in to the room an iPhone that is unnamed. You please state your name for the record so we can know who you are, or change your name on the screen if possible. Just give it a sec. One second, please. If the person, again, is identified as just simply an iPhone in the room, if you can call our main line quickly so we know who you are. Number is 314-657-3865. Okay. All right. So we just want to make sure everybody is all covered.
Okay.
Okay. All right. First, so I'm Bob Bettis with staff. I swear to tell the truth. I reside at 63139 in beautiful Clifton Heights. I need to enter an enabling ordinance, which is 56768 as amended by 69423. I'm sorry, that was the Central West End ordinance that I just flubbed. Then the enabling ordinance, which is 64689 as amended by 69423. My presentation, PowerPoint, and staff report.
And I did not hear Nancy. Did he affirm that he was going to tell the truth?
We'll tell the truth. I swear I will tell the truth.
Yes. He did. Thank you.
Okay. First up, we have an appeal of the director's denial to install a 550-foot tall radio antenna at the property on your screen. This is for Hubbard. They have an existing tower on the same site. The proposal is to construct a new tower and then remove the aging tower you see on the screen, it is overburdened by many years of new equipment, and they'll expound upon that later. And I do want to say you should have received a lengthy submission from the applicant, it's like 30 some pages that states their case and goes through all of that. So you already have that, and they are here also to speak on it. So let's go through the site quickly. It's on the very western edge of the Central West End Local Historic District on De Bolivar. The site is kind of surrounded by a high school on 3 sides, but it does front on De Bolivar. You can see the site here. This shows you in yellow is the existing antenna, and then in red is the proposed location of the new antenna. And I've done some really, really bad red triangles to just kind of give you an approximation of what you would see on site. The tower will be black, by the way, but I thought red would be a little more clear. So this is kind of a bird's eye view. This is looking north on De Bolivar. Looking south.
Bob, if it really looked like your drawing, I would vote for it in a minute.
I mean, it's really kind of abstract. Let's be honest. You know, you can see through it easily. It's one-dimensional. It's crazy. Okay. So this is the kind of the street level view. The tower itself will be in this parking lot. At some point, we can discuss screening for the proposed tower. The applicant has reached out to Central West End. They are not going to formally comment on the item today, but there has been some positive discussions with Jim Dwyer's group about some street level screening to kind of augment the street level view of the new tower. So these areas, including in front of the brick wall, looking at some tall evergreen hedges, but we can work out those details later. But I do know the applicant is open to increased screening at the street level. So essentially it comes down to this. The Central West End Code says you can't build new antennas. And even though it probably wasn't meant to address this specific kind of antenna, there really is no definition of the word antenna. So staff is looking at this as a brand new antenna, not just like one, on a house for a TV set. So this is staff's opinion that we cannot approve this at staff level because it does not meet the code by the strict level of the rules, and it will have a more of an impact. Honestly, moving the tower up to the street will have a greater impact on the Bolivar view looking north and to south. So that being said, staff does recommend that the board uphold the director's denial of the permit application to construct a new 550-foot antenna tower, as it does not comply with the Central West End Historic District standards.
Questions for Bob?
Bob, I read the attorney's documentation on the tower situation. There's a passage about how this was built in the 1930s and is represented in paintings of the city skyline. Do you think it should be a city landmark?
Well, that is above my pay grade, Mr. Allen. I think it perhaps would require some more study, but you definitely have more info than I do on that. So kudos.
Okay, I believe that somebody's going to have to check the water supply today to see what's going on among commissioners.
My line.
It's a valid question. I mean, I admit that I was unaware of the age of the tower itself, but I do know that it's really reached its end of life. So, but I understand what you're saying, Mr. Allen. It's a great question.
Okay. Further questions for Bob? Okay, let's hear from the appellant, please.
Good afternoon. This is Curtis Holland. I'm the attorney who actually wrote the letter to you. I'm an attorney with the Polsinelli Law Firm. My address for the record is 900 West 48th Place, Suite 900, Kansas City, Missouri 64112. We do have offices in St. Louis. So hopefully you've heard of Polsinelli PC. But regardless, do appreciate you hearing our appeal. I have no objection to what Bob had mentioned earlier and laying it all out. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak to you all today. We did
just briefly, Mr. Holland, will your
Yes, sir.
testimony be the truth?
I'm sorry.
Will your
Yes.
testimony be the truth? Okay.
The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
That's good till midnight. You might warn your clients.
I'm an officer of the court. I cannot lie. I'm just kidding. But anyway, our letter laid out in great detail, as Commissioner Allen just mentioned, all of this. And so I don't want to really take up too much time of your time, given that you've already given substantial consideration to it already. I do want to just briefly, kind of high level, tell you we represent the ownership of the radio tower and the applicant in this appeal. We've had many conversations with Cultural Resources, as well as with Central West End Association, Alderwoman Shameen Clark Hubbard with Ward 26 we've talked with substantially, and also have had lots of discussions with Crossroad College Preparatory School. So everybody's very aware of what's going on here. We do have a very unique situation with this radio tower. It has been there for 90 or so years, well before the code, actually. So we're trying to apply a new code to an existing structure. In essence, it's really a replacement of that structure. As indicated, we had our clients rather had performed routine maintenance and inspection of the facility and found surprisingly that it is overloaded. The structural engineering load for the tower itself is overloaded by some 600%, which is significant. It's a very significant safety issue for us, and we are trying to rebuild this as quickly as we can to minimize the risk of the tower structure actually falling. But in any event, it is it's a radio tower. There are 4 tenants on there, broadcasting FM stations in St. Louis. Many of those stations, hopefully you've heard. So we have news, sports, weather, and music, and religion broadcast from the companies on the radio tower today. We're requesting your permission to rebuild it. It's essentially in the same location. It's on the property that we own and control, Hubbard Radio. It is being moved a little bit closer to the street. I will grant you that, but it still will be behind a brick wall. We have discussed with Cultural Resources, as well as with the Central West End Association, as well as the school. The issue or comment that was made with regard to additional screening at the base. And we are more than happy and willing to enter into further discussions to come up with an appropriate landscaping plan to provide additional screening to break up the wall, as well as to provide some additional screening. There's wrought iron fencing, black wrought iron fencing on the west side of it, which is the school side. They own the property on the west side, and then there's a little fencing on the east side. And so we do think there's some opportunities to provide some better screening here. We're asking you to consider this a unique situation, given the fact that the tower has been there so long, the fact that it has these significant safety issues, and just simply rebuilding it in a close proximity to where it is today. And the fact that it's a major infrastructure component for these radio stations, and it's in a very specific location to allow them to broadcast their stations from this specific location. And so moving it just a few feet will not cause any issue with their programming and so forth. I do want to indicate that we are looking for hopefully your all's approval today. We also have the zoning code to deal with and need to appear before the Board of Adjustments in April, which we're going to. And then also to tell you that, again, we've had significant communications with the school. They're not opposed to what we're doing, but they do want us to make sure that when the construction, or limit our construction so that it occurs during the summer months, when school is mostly out of session, to minimize any risk of safety or danger to the kids who go to school there. And so that's our ask. We hope that you'll understand the situation grant your approval of our appeal. Thank you.
Mr. Holland, a quick question. Is the tower that's currently there going to remain?
No, it will be removed. What will happen here, just in the timing and the sequence of it, is we'll have to build the new structure right next to it, and then we will say in the middle of the night, but if you will, move the antenna and communication antennas over to the new site. And then we will remove the existing tower structure. The unsafe structure will be removed.
Bob Bettis?
Hi.
Would that require a demolition permit?
I believe so. But we have not submitted one as yet. The permit that was applied for was to modify a structure. So I think there needs to be some additional applications made for the demo itself.
Does that mean that we could see this again?
I don't think we need to, as long as you approve both at the same time. Is that possible? I mean, I don't want to speak out of turn.
I apologize. I was not aware of that. I understood we would need to demolish it. I did not understand that to demolish it would require coming back before this board.
And I don't know that it would, but
we would certainly condition any approval on obtaining a demolition permit, so that you all are assured that there would not be two of these structures there. We don't.
Actually, I think Commissioner Allen would be happy to have two of them. He wants that old rickety one up there.
Well, maybe we can talk after the meeting, but that one has to come down. We'd like to do it in an organized manner under our supervision, and not in the middle of the night, if you will, in an unsafe condition.
Nancy, how much latitude do we have to approve a demolition permit that hasn't been applied for yet?
I have to apologize that I don't have a lot of experience with this board. I'm looking at 24.40 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that talks about demolitions of structures listed on the National Register within a National Registered District or within a Preservation Review District. So is that where we are?
Yeah, I mean, this does fall within our purview. In the past, we have conditioned things upon other permits. So would this be relevant in this situation as well?
Well, based upon the testimony of the appellant's attorney, they said they'd be willing to do that, I think. That but the question is if we would want to, and I think we'd want to phrase a motion in such a way that we knew that approving the building permit would also be indicating our approval of a demolition permit. Does that make sense, commissioners?
That's probably fine. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And we approve demo permits without your blessing as well often. So, I mean, either way you want to do it, we can probably make sure this is done on the up and up and everything.
I would only note Commissioner Allen's testimony that this could easily be, that this could be a city landmark.
It's very thorough, Mr. Allen. We appreciate that.
Okay, any further questions for the appellant?
Just one, and as fond as I am of the old lattice tower, of course, were there any other alternatives to a new lattice tower explored? I'm not very familiar with what designs exist, but I guess some might characterize this, at least in terms of the current ordinances, pretty non-compliant and visually dominant. Are there more slender towers, other ways of doing this, or not? Feel free to educate me.
Well, I'm not an engineer. I'm a lawyer. However, I've been around these kinds of tower structures and know that the only other kind of structure that could accommodate something like that is of this height would, and you mentioned a slender structure. The only other kind of slender structure that might be able to handle is a guide tower. And a guide tower situation would have those long tethered guide cables and would not be more attractive. Thank you. So this would be the next best thing, or the probably best thing to do here, is to build essentially a three-legged structure.
Thank you. That helps.
Further questions from the appellant? Thank you very much, sir. Bob, anybody signed up to speak?
Yeah, Richard Bose.
Okay. Mr. Bose?
Hello?
We can hear you.
All right. I'm Richard Bose. I live in 63112.
Testimony of the truth?
Yes, sir.
Proceed.
So I would ask the board to uphold the staff's recommendation because, and I don't know if you could consider this, but the community has made a pretty big statement in what they would like to see on DeBoliver in both the Skinker DeBoliver neighborhood plan and the Del Mar and Forest Park Station TOD plan. And the existing tower and the proposed tower bear no resemblance to what we've said as a community, what we'd like to see on DeBoliver. So again, I would encourage the board to take the staff's recommendation and deny approval. If this tower is at its end of life, which definitely sounds like it, this is a great opportunity to look for other locations that might be more appropriate for something like this, say in an industrial zone or something like that, not in a place where between two parks, a greenway, we're trying to build TOD and mixed use and environment. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Bob?
We have Tom Ferguson.
Okay.
If I may, Tom Ferguson is with us and he had to leave an emergency. His spouse was in a car accident. So.
Oh, no.
No, yeah.
Bob, anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, Mr. Holland, I neglected to ask you, is there anything else you'd like to submit for the record of your appeal?
No, Mr. Chairman, not for the record, just in very, very quick response. This tower's been there for 90 plus years. The area's grown up around it. It hasn't had a negative impact on the community.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Point of information, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Was Mr. Bose representing the neighborhood? It was just an individual citizen.
I do not know the answer to that question.
I was representing myself.
Thank you, Mr. Bose. And have we heard from the neighborhood association or the alderman on this issue?
Bob, you want to repeat your testimony?
Not the alderman, and we have no official statement from Central West End regarding this, although the applicant has reached out and spoken with them regarding screening options at street level.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we have had conversations. They were supportive during our conversations.
Okay, commissioners, that concludes testimony in agenda item E. Commissioner Richardson, are you still here? An interesting question. Okay, Commissioner Hammaker, have you got a motion?
Sure. I motion that the Preservation Board approves. Approves the building permit application to construct a new street visible antenna tower with the condition that the applicant works with CRO on screening options at the street level.
Okay, does your motion envision directing staff to approve a demo permit?
It does, yes. So they don't have to come back again.
Cool. And have you slept more than 2 hours on any night in the last 2 weeks?
I have actually, not so bad.
Okay.
Although I've been strategically muting and unmuting as to not disturb you all.
Thank you. Is there a second to the motion? Chair seconds the motion for discussion. Is there any discussion?
I would have seconded that.
Okay. I'm happy to withdraw my second. Commissioner Robinson, do you want to second this motion?
Yes.
Seconded by Commissioner Robinson. Any discussion?
So I think this is a great example of where the code doesn't really take the fact that, you know, this tower's been in existence for 90+ years. And yeah, obviously to keep the stations running, they can't take the tower down and rebuild it right in the place that it sits. And so moving it slightly obviously makes sense. And while it does not meet historic district standards, it has existed, and in order for the radio stations to continue, you need a new tower. And given that this is a perfect example of why we would overturn a denial, and obviously worthy of a variance as such.
Further discussion?
Well, I just wanted to say that Mr. Bose brought up a good point, and had that been backed by the neighborhood association, I think we would have considered it with more weight, because it is an opportunity. But I just feel it's just not a strong enough argument. So I'm in agreement with the motion.
Okay, further discussion?
I would just say that what Mr. Bose desires for this site is still feasible, even if we were to vote in the affirmative on this motion. That could still happen down the road if the land is valuable enough to some developer, they make the right offer. You know, we're not going to speak for the applicant, but that could happen. It's not happening now. This kind of infrastructure could also rest on the top of their buildings. And as I jokingly indicated, I actually have a fondness for these kinds of towers, and I think they're part of our city fabric. And yes, as Tony mentioned, the ordinance didn't really think about infrastructure. It's written about architecture, but these kinds of these pieces are part of our city too. So I'm not upset to see this proposal.
Okay, thank you, commissioners, for thoughtful testimony. There is a motion on the floor. It is to uphold the appeal.
Overturn the appeal.
No.
Well, she said approve the permit. So we need maybe restate the motion to state overturn the director's denial.
Overturn the director's denial, approve the appeal, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Everybody agrees, right? Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes to the overturn of the director's denial and
upholding the appeal. A very careful yes. Let's see. Commissioner Killeen, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you back? Commissioner Allen, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamaker, yes or no?
Yes.
Chair votes abstains on this motion, counts 4 yeses, no nos. The appeal is upheld and the denial is overturned. Thank you, commissioners. Let's do agenda.
Okay. You said F, correct, sir? I believe you said yes, but I'm not good at lip reading. Hey, okay, there you go. Okay,
I'm sorry, let's do agenda item F. Yes.
Thank you. This item was deferred at the last meeting, so I don't need to enter in everything again. Is that correct, Nancy? Or, okay, all right.
That is correct.
Okay, all right. So in brief, for those who weren't here, I think everybody was here except for maybe Mr. Allen. The item was deferred last month so that the applicant can meet with Benton Park to discuss the project. Essentially, the building before you, these retaining walls were constructed without permits. They don't meet the Benton Park code because they're not based on a model example. They're made with a precast concrete block and they don't meet the standards. So just quickly, I'll run through the slides again so we know what's going on. Here's the site in question, South 18th Street, just south of Cherokee Park, right by Cherokee Street. Context, and just as a reminder, the east side of this block has several houses that already have concrete block walls. All of those walls were installed prior to the Benton Park Local Historic District being established. So they predate the code. They're not compliant, but they're grandfathered in. This is the wall in question again. I'd like to note there's a brick wall that you see kind of behind this chain link fence. A previous owner came to our office and had that approved. It met the ordinance. It's a brick wall. It meets the code for retaining walls. So that was a approved retaining wall that met the codes done by a previous owner. Everything else you see was not. And there's a close-up shot of the approved brick wall. So this is a before and after condition. Obviously, there's a steep slope here. It could warrant a retaining wall if need be, but again, it's not a compliant wall that was constructed. You were sent a letter from Benton Park in regards to their feelings on the item. Mr. Mulligan is here to speak on it again. Just to remind you, staff did recommend that the board uphold the director's denial as the installed wall does not meet the Benton Park Historic District Code.
Commissioners, have any questions occurred to you for Bob in the intervening time? No. Okay, then. Let's have the appellant back.
Okay, Sean McCracken is here. I believe he is here to speak on the item.
So is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, hello. Is it my turn? Is somebody else asking? Yeah.
No, it is your turn.
Perfect. Yeah, hi, everybody. I'm Sean McCracken, 63139. I live in Clifton Heights.
And your testimony is going to be the truth.
Yes, sir. So I think, and I don't want to take you guys too long. It's been late. Thanks for seeing us again. I think the biggest thing with this situation is for you guys to know is that my dad and I we co-own this business, W.D. McCracken, that owns this property. In the last 4 years, we've done about 6 houses all throughout St. Louis City. And we started in Carondelet and Dutchtown, and we made our money and made it up to finally kind of Benton Park, Soulard. And so we are just two guys just doing our best, and we want to follow the rules, and we wanted to do this right. And going into this project, we kind of talked with some of the neighbors who had talked of the houses with the wall you've seen and the previous owner, and they indicated that there had been issues with some of the inspectors and stuff and with what they had been doing. So we immediately kind of tried to get some permits, and we got some permits, especially for the fence on the outside and the steps initially. So as we were doing that and making those changes, we were actually working with the building inspector, and in order to make the steps in, wanted to have the wall at the same time. And so as we were doing it and talking about it, we were building this wall, and we basically had verbal approval from the inspector that said, oh yeah, this wall is good, go ahead and send in the permit and it'll get approved. And so that was the kind of reasoning behind the wall being built in the first place. We weren't just going and building the wall. We had verbal approval from the inspector at the time, and now if you ask them, it's kind of iffy, and I don't want to bring that situation up. I don't as far as the ethics with that inspector, but that is why we built it. And then at the same time, we kind of thought that the model example from what was next door, which now that you guys say it, sure, it was grandfathered in, but we didn't know that. We just wanted to make the street look good and right. And if you notice the way the wall is now, it has 2 tiers. And that's because from working with the inspector, we initially built it to run straight exactly with the wall that's currently there. And the inspector said, oh no, this is too tall. According to the code, you have to do this and this. So we did, we fixed it. We made it right. And basically, with all that said, and with the fact that if we are denied with this, my only point would be, what would you have us do? I mean, if you look at the previous condition and now it's obviously much better, but to build one of those brick walls like that, it's going to be really expensive. We're going to have to take it all the way. We're going to have to remake it. We've gotten some bids for it. It's $15,000 plus to do a brick wall like that. We can't afford that. And so basically what if you deny this appeal, we think we might have to just revert it to a hill, which I think would be really sad, to be honest. It's beautiful the way it is. I think that in a sense, what you guys might be doing by reverting this appeal would just be kind of grandfathering us in as well. Let that wall stay, and that's all I ask for you to deny that denial and kind of give us a break here, kind of given the issues that we had during the permits and with the inspector. And we wanted to do, and with all the houses we've done, the 5 houses, at least I've been involved, we've done them all, working with any of the codes and the inspectors, and been great. So we'd like to continue that, but just so everything's put up front, that's why the way it is. And all we're asking is just to kind of let this stay and be grandfathered in as well.
Commissioners, questions for the appellant?
I have a question. I know you don't want to, the issue of the inspector, but you mean the city building inspector, right?
Yes.
And do you have a name?
I would rather not. But
Can I ask staff, did you ever communicate with the building inspector on this issue?
I have.
I'm trying to figure this out.
I have spoken with the inspector, who's actually now moved on to a different position within the net division. But he and I had a lengthy discussion about what was said on site, and then also, just in relation to the overall project in general. But I will focus on the wall, to be polite. What he stated was, he said that if you were to apply for a permit, there's some feedback in the background. Is that, I think it's you, Mr. Craig, can you please mute? Thank you. Okay. What he stated to me was that if you were to apply for a building permit, he could potentially approve it. He didn't say he ever said to him, build it. He didn't say that he said, do another tier, make it look great. He stated that construction-wise, if he were to apply for a permit, get through our office, he could potentially approve that. That could be approved. He thought it was built in a manner that would meet building code. But he said in no uncertain terms that he said, yep, build it, or directed the owners to add a second wall. That's, again, that's what he told me in our conversations.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Commissioners, further questions for the appellant? Okay. Thank you, Mr. McCracken. Bob, who's here to speak?
We have Tim Mulligan is back.
Okay. Mr. Mulligan?
Yes, I reside in the 63118 zip code. And the testimony I will be providing is the truth.
Proceed.
This was a very tough one, very similar in ways to, front doors or windows that get installed that are incorrect. And, a choice has to be made as far as how to deal with it. I did not recall this specifically when this initially came to us a month ago. And then in reviewing my years of history for the neighborhood, I came across, the 3-4 family apartments that have the concrete block retaining wall. And as I provided in my write-up, this was one of the examples, that was cited, of an inappropriate retaining wall, for a historic neighborhood. And so, I mean, nobody would know that unless I am bringing that up now. But, 20 years ago when, a little bit of everything was getting, constructed, we felt, the strong need, to put some parameters and controls on what goes into the built environment. And I know from other neighborhoods, this board, I think it was McKinley, had a similar instance where a retaining wall was built a little bit lower than this along, I believe it was Russell. and the direction from the board, I believe that was a year and a half ago, was to remove it. It was built without a permit. It wasn't, part of an approved retaining wall scheme for the neighborhood. And yes, whatever the pitch of that front yard is highly difficult to maintain. I will say thanks to Mr. Bettis for providing the images of this brick wall, because the previous owner similarly I came across his original application, and this brick wall was originally proposed to be a railroad tie wall, which really caught our attention so many years ago. So I think while on the quality of the materials, we're not really commenting on that. It isn't allowed. It's not appropriate for the neighborhood, and a brick wall certainly would be satisfactory. If that's not within their means, then other landscaping schemes could be employed. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Bob, is there anybody else?
No, sir.
Okay.
Can I
Commissioner-
ask Tim a question? Is that?
No.
No, okay.
If there's anything else you'd like to submit for your record, I'll take that.
Yeah, sure. I just want to comment on what kind of Tim just said about like
Nah,
the other.
That won't be anything about your particular situation. Document, bill, financial statement.
No, I think it's fine. So
Cool.
sorry.
Thanks.
Point of information again, is Mr. Mulligan a representative of the neighborhood or a private citizen in this matter?
Mr. Mulligan?
I'm here representing the Benton Park Neighborhood Association on this.
Thank you.
Commissioners, this concludes testimony in this matter. Both sides have built their record. Commissioner Allen, have you got a motion?
Yes, I move that the Preservation Board uphold the director's denial of the concrete block wall, as it does not meet the Benton Park Local Historic District standards for retaining walls.
Is there a second, commissioners?
Second.
Is there any discussion, commissioners? Okay, then. There's a motion before us. On this motion, do you vote yes or no, Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, are you present? Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamaker, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this. Counts 4 yeses and 1 abstention. The appeal is denied. The Preservation Board Director's denial is upheld. Okay, commissioners, agenda item G.
Okay, my last one for this evening. Bob Bettis with staff. I resided in 63139. I need to enter in the Fox Parks.
Bob, I should tell you, I just got a text from the director. You're also delivering the director's report.
Yeah, that's good. I figured as much. It just feels appropriate tonight. I don't know why. Just keep the ball rolling. You threw me off, Richard. Okay, I need to enter in the Fox Park Ordinance 66098, our enabling ordinance 64689, as amended by 69423. My PowerPoint staff report. My staff report. Oh, you see what you did to me. And yeah, everything else I can do. I will tell the truth. Okay. Paint on brick. Okay, so this is an appeal of a director's denial to install a mural on the south facade of the building you see before you. This is reminiscent of the Angry Bird mural that we call affectionately in our office that you saw in Central West End. We want to say on the outset, this is nothing to do with content. It's strictly dealing with paint on unpainted masonry. Staff receives many complaints citywide in regards to people painting their brick. So we have to be diligent in all aspects of the code when it comes to painting brick, be it murals, be it someone wanting to paint their brick house bright gray, but we have to be consistent with it. And the Fox Park Code says specifically you cannot paint unpainted masonry. The applicants, I will credit them. They have done some research to find paint that is permeable, that will allow for, they say will allow for the passage of moisture to come in and not do damage to the brick itself. However, the code does not specify that. It just says you can't paint unpainted masonry. So I'll run through this really quickly. This is the location. We're on Jefferson in Fox Park. This is context looking north on Jefferson. The building in question is at left. This is looking south on Jefferson. This is again the building. And this is the proposed mural and the proposed location. So again, just to two things in the ordinance. It says that if brick was painted previously, it can be the same color or the color of the brick below. That's not the situation here. It states you cannot paint masonry. So that being said, staff recommends that the board uphold the director's denial as it does not meet the Fox Park standards. You have received a letter from Jay Reeves from Fox Park. They are in support of the applicant, and they are here to discuss their project with you. They being the applicant.
Questions for staff, commissioners? Okay, then, let's hear from the appellant.
Hello, my name is Shannon Ware. I'm the currently reside in 63110 in the process of moving to 63104. I testify I am telling the truth. I also on the meeting is Liz Ware, my daughter, who's another occupant of the building, the artist for the mural, Simya. And so yeah, I don't know if, oh yeah, and Jesse Mueller, who is the director of the entire Jefferson Avenue project, counterpublic project, all up and down Jefferson Avenue. I'd just like to add, I noticed that in the context presentation, you did not mention that one block up from this building and visible from the front of our building are two other murals on the side of buildings. And I have pictures of those if they're required that I can bring up. We're not really proposing to paint the whole building. This is just a piece of art that is a very high profile project. Counterpublic actually approached us requesting to put this high profile installation on our building. It was not initiated by us. And there's many other things running from up at NGA all the way down to South Broadway. And if you have more questions, Jesse can speak to the nature of the whole project. As mentioned, I did do a lot of research because this building's very important. We're putting a huge, enormous amount of money into it. And I did not want to damage the brick. It's recently been tuck pointed on that side. We're proposing to use something called mineral paint, which is approved by the National Historic Preservation Standards and just about it in architects and everybody, so it does not damage the brick. The Fox Park ordinance does mention that the reason for not painting is because of moisture damage to the brick, so we've addressed that problem. So we would urge you just I think it is important to consider the context that this is part of a much larger high profile installation. So we would request that you approve this project. We think it will enhance the neighborhood and be entirely appropriate. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to discuss them.
I'm not sure that I can phrase this in the form of a question, but I will tell you, this is not the first mural to come before us. And staff is not anti-art or anti-mural. They're dealing with the letter of a district standard that says you can't paint unpainted brick. So you're before us now.
Okay.
And we would consider it, if we approve it, as a variance.
Yes, that is what we were requesting, that the intent of we think the intent of the thing is to prevent somebody painting an entire building and also potentially damaging it. This is something really quite different, we think. And this isn't some random project. This is I think it is important that you do consider I request that you consider the context, that it is part of a large installation that was requested of us by Counterpublic. So I'm not sure what else to add here, other than that we think.
I don't think that you need to.
Okay.
Okay. Bob, who's here to speak?
Jesse, is it Miller or Mueller? I apologize, is here to speak.
I will accept either pronunciation. Jesse Mueller, Director of Exhibitions for Counterpublic. My zip code is 63110, and I attest to tell the truth. I am just here to introduce Counterpublic as a project. For those of you who might not know, we are an art triennial, a local nonprofit. So the first Counterpublic exhibition took place in 2019 on Cherokee Street, and we are 1 year off thanks to COVID. So Counterpublic's second iteration is happening in 2023. Next would be in 2026, etc. We've expanded our footprint this year to run along the 6 mile stretch of Jefferson, from the Griot Museum of Black History in North City all the way down to the Osage Mound, the last mound within city limits on the south end. And as Shannon stated, we did approach them about having a mural painted on the side of their building. We're working with 29 artists, some of them local, some of them national, international, different levels here, but working with a local artist, Samaya Sedith, who, as Shannon said, is on this call as well. We were looking for buildings to paint and to bring art to the city. So the triennial, the exhibition is 3 months, April to July, but there are a handful of projects that we are leaving behind to beautify the city beyond July, and this mural would obviously be one of those. It would last longer than the 3 months. So yeah, can you answer any questions about the exhibition or this project specifically?
Can you tell us a tiny bit about the care you're going to take of that wall?
I'm sorry, who are you addressing?
Ms. Mueller?
Yeah, as Shannon said, we are using a mineral paint to protect the masonry. We are, we'll have a lift. We are taking, we are trying to protect the wall as best you can when it comes to painting a wall surface with primer and with this specific mineral paint, which we could provide specs on.
Thank you. Bob, who's next?
I believe it's the artist, it's Samaya. I apologize if I said it correctly. Samaya?
Yes, I'm here. I'm just trying to get my video on so you all can see me too. I'm just a bit Zoom illiterate right now. Hold on. I'm on my phone.
Commissioners, I'm willing to stipulate that the mural is gorgeous. Hey, well, there you are.
Can't hear anything.
Okay, we can only use one sense at a time, apparently. Now we can see you, but we can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Now we can't see you. Now we can see you. Now we can see you and hear you. Perfect.
Okay, great. My name is Samaya Sedith. I live in the 63110 area code, and I will tell the truth. I appreciate you all speaking with me and taking time to review this. Counterpublic has offered this opportunity to create pretty much a permanent piece of art that would be a fixture in the city. I am a very, how would you say, experienced mural artist. I have a 2,000 square foot piece at Lambert Airport. I was contracted by Lambert and St. Louis City to paint this mural at the Southwest Airlines terminal. I have work at the Kranzberg Arts Foundation, as well as in Belleville, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and other cities. I will use the mineral paint, which will allow the brick to breathe. And I'm very confident in my skills and my professional ability to make it look nice, long lasting. And my work deals with healing and social commentary and social justice issues. And I think this would be a good complementary piece, especially with the artist studios that are down the block that have several murals And as a public artist, when I'm installing work, I often get a lot of comments and people just saying they really enjoy the way art uplifts the neighborhood and they appreciate the time and the energy. So I know it is not in alignment with what would typically be allowed, but I do think it's a different circumstance. And I think it would be more of a cultural item than just simply painting on the brick. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Bob, who's next?
That's all.
Okay, then.
Oh, sorry. Oh, and Jeff, sorry. Jay Reeves is here also if he wishes to speak.
I'll be very brief by comparison of the way we open this meeting. Jay Reeves, I live at 63104. Speaking on behalf of the Neighborhood Association.
Does the Neighborhood Association favor this?
We do, and for all the reasons, Commissioner, that you were bringing up and others. And I just want to give both Bob a little bit of a special shout out for trying to help us negotiate a way that can work within the spirit and the rules and know when there's a time to set that aside. And also to the homeowner, Shannon, for doing all the work. She did a lot of digging to try to find paints that would comply with this and kind of went above and beyond as a homeowner to help along. So we stand in support of it, but we certainly appreciate that Bob was willing to flag this because we have too many painted buildings in our neighborhood. They're not done well or intentionally or within the rules. So we do support it though.
Jay, and you support this as a variance because your earlier testimony in a different matter is rules is rules is rules, right?
Also true.
Okay. Thanks. Where did Bob go? There he is.
Right here.
there was no one in your window.
Yeah, it fell over.
Okay. Testimony concluded. Commissioner Allen, motion.
Yes, I move that we overturn the director's denial of the application to install a painted mural on the wall.
Second.
Richard, you're muted.
Is there any discussion?
I'll just say great work, Samaya. I remember seeing some of this work years ago in the landscape architecture studio back at Washington University. So great to see it on a larger scale out in the public on Jefferson.
Further discussion? Thank you, commissioners. There's a motion on the floor. I will call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you for the suspense. Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Richardson, have you returned? Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamaker, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair would normally abstain. It's not a tie situation, but in this case votes yes. There are 5 yeses and no nos. The appeal is upheld and the director's denial is overturned.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners. Agenda item H.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Bob. Meg, can you make this one fast?
Actually, Jane will be doing the presentation. She's
Jan, can
muted.
you make this one fast?
I will do my best.
Okay.
This is a project referred from the Board of Public Service, Direct 18 Historic Replica Light Standards on the north side of Waterman Boulevard in the Central West End Historic District. I should start out by saying that in the agenda, the initial older ward was incorrect. It said Ward 28 and it is actually Ward 26, but it is the new Ward 10. The staff's recommendation on this project is for the Preservation Board to instruct the director to recommend to BPS that the light standards be approved. This is the 5500 block of Waterman. The only lighting currently on the block are large Cobra head lights, and they are not being removed. They remain. Next. The lights are being installed only on the northern northern side of the block between Clara and Belt, and that's what's indicated in red. Next. These are the plan. This is the plan of the 18 lights. You can see they run from Clara to Belt, and then there's additional work for conduit for electrical and other services. Next. Okay, so on the left, we have the lovely existing Cobra heads, and on the right, this is an example of the light that will be installed. It has been installed elsewhere in the Central West End, but those projects were not ever referred to us for one reason or another. But the posts will be a painted pink, a pink granite color and have a decorative globe. They comply with the Central West End standards, which say that any new lighting should have an authentic period styling and be of appropriate scale and materials. Next. I have to credit Bob with this because he did some research and found this photograph from the Missouri Historical Society of a house at 5515 Waterman, which some of you may remember used to be Carolyn Toft's house, the former director of Landmarks. And if you note this, there is a light standard that is almost virtually identical to the proposed lights, including having a light colored pole. Of course, we don't know exactly the color pole, but it's certainly light colored. So the staff's preliminary findings are the 5500 block of Waterman is located in the Central West End District. The standards are appropriate, standards being the light standards, not the standards, are appropriate in material and design, complement the character of the block and neighborhood, and comply with the Central West End Historic District standards. And the lights are nearly identical to those that obviously existed on the block in the 1950s and 60s. And therefore, the staff recommends the Preservation Board instruct the director to recommend to BPS that the project be approved.
Commissioners, questions?
So moved.
Is there anybody here to speak about this?
There is no one signed up, but I believe Mr. Clank would probably like to speak. I'm not sure. Again, he hasn't signed up. I'm not sure what to do. He's not voicing desire to speak, so perhaps he does not wish to speak.
Okay. Commissioners, who made the motion?
I did.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded.
Hi, Michael. My poor,
I'm sorry, sir. I cannot hear you.
Oh,
Okay, commissioners, there's a motion on the floor that's been made and seconded. I'm going to call a roll. Commissioner Robinson, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Killeen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamaker, do you vote yes or no?
Yes.
Chair abstains on this. There's 4 yeses, 1 abstention, and the Preservation Board instructs the director to recommend to the Board of Public Service that the proposed standards be approved. Commissioners, director's report.
yeah, can I still speak here? What, I do wish to speak. See, I got my paper.
Sir, you are having audio difficulties. We cannot hear you. Director's report.
I don't know what button yet. I got mute.
I don't know what to tell you. Director's report.
Okay. 2 items on my director's report this month. First of all, good evening again, everyone. First, I wanted to give the board an update on a matter that you considered at your December 5th meeting. At that meeting, you upheld the staff denial for the request to demolish 1070, 1074, 1076, 1080, 1084, 1086-88, and 1092-94 South Kings Highway. The developer requested that the Planning Commission review that decision as is part of the process established in ordinance. At its March 8th meeting, the Planning Commission voted not to take up the matter. That is the update. Moving on to the second item, and I need to get the right window. Give me just one moment. I apologize, board members. We've got a lot of windows going here and a pretty slow computer. It's kind of the equivalent of a two-cylinder car. So sometimes it takes us a moment to get to the right one. Here we go. Okay. So can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sharing with you a project that our office is particularly proud of. The planning. Can't see
Meg,
it?
we still see the other presentation. We don't see anything new.
I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, let me share again.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm there.
We can see it now.
But you're muted, Meg.
Meg, we cannot hear you.
Something. Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me now? Yeah, I know I shut out. I don't know what happened. 2 hours, and then all of a sudden it's just blank. Yeah, what's going on?
I'm getting some background noise.
I don't know who. Can't be me because you locked me out. Well, it
Okay,
can't be me
Commissioners.
because you let me out. I didn't get a chance to speak.
Mr. Klink, are you still talking? I cannot hear you.
I never got a chance to talk, sir. I never got a chance to talk. I don't know. I've been mute out. I signed up. I wrote this meeting to speak.
I
It's about
apologize for
5
the
minutes.
I apologize for the technical stuff.
Just sign up.
I cannot hear you.
What's going on? I don't
Okay, Meg, are you ready for the director's
know.
report?
I know. You.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Apologize. All right, here we go. So this is a project that we are particularly proud of. The Planning and Urban Design Agency, of which Cultural Resources is a part, has begun something we're calling Maps of the Month or Map of the Month. And in March, we decided to do Cultural Resources Office Areas of Review. So what we have, and I'll try to scroll down, although again, this is a giant file, so it's maybe hard for me to scroll entirely, but this is really more than a map. It's a communication tool, and it's one that we'll be using as we meet with public officials, neighborhood groups, and the public in general. So this is the version that we have on the website. It will be available to members of the public, but the real effect here is the full-size physical map, which is almost 6 feet tall. We have a hard copy version of it in the lobby here at 1520 Market Street. Another is basically the wallpaper of my office. And what's so great about this map is how it illustrates the many layers of Cultural Resources Office jurisdiction, including National Historic Landmarks, National Register Historic Districts, National Register Sites, city landmarks, local historic districts, certified local historic districts, and preservation review districts. And it gives, as you can see on the right, it gives a brief description of all of those. There are QR codes, so anyone looking at the map can immediately go to the part on our website that gives further information. We also have some info blocks on the left side that talk about the Geo San Luis database, the preservation board itself, and what is an historic district, the benefits of being in a district, and how to become a district. Creating this comprehensive map involved a good deal of research and collaboration with our colleagues in PDA, and the result is a tool that reflects the geographic scope of our purview, and we think the importance of our work, because it's quite staggering to see how much area we have review over, how much work our team does to handle the many requests and applications and projects that happen in really the vast majority of the city. So we'd love to show it to you in person. Maybe when we return to in-person meetings, we'll get to see it. In the meantime, it is available on the website, and we're happy to answer any questions about it or adjourn.
It's a remarkable piece of work. Congratulations to everybody who worked on it.
I'd love to have a copy of that in our office. That'll make things simpler here.
We will get you one, Mike. Do you want it 6 feet tall?
Maybe.
Okay, commissioners, anything else for this meeting? Meg, I can still see Mr. Klink waving something in front of the screen. Would you refer him to the Planning Commission? Or let's see. Nope, to the Board of Public Service.
Okay.
Thank you. And I think we have probably learned that dial-up doesn't work. Okay, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Without objection, then we stand adjourned. Thank you, commissioners.
Have a good night, everybody. Good job, staff.
Thank you all. Have a good evening, everyone.